The Morning Drive is sponsored by Power Metallic. To find out more about the company, please visit their website at powermetallic.com. Follow the Money Investor Group is a 100% Indigenous-owned company and certified with the Canadian Council for Aboriginal Business.
Sam, nice to have you in the Cybertruck this time.
Yes, Carl, great to see you. And this is such a cool experience. I've never been in one of these.
Yeah. So we're going to drive what would be 30-second drive, which is going to probably take us 14 minutes, and we might extend that based on our conversation. But how are you?
I'm doing very well, Carl. This has been an incredible year. Suffering from a little bit of a cough, so bear with me during this 15 minutes. I hope you don't catch anything, but as this goes, PDAC on day 3.
I'm a little worried about catching it only because I know you're a healthy guy.
Yes.
You do intermittent fasting. You know, you look very athletic. So if you went down, man, I do most of the stuff you do. I'm not safe here, but it's okay.
Well, I've been in 7 countries in the last 2.5 months, so it's been a bit of a whirlwind tour for me. I was bound to have a catch up.
You're racking up the air miles.
Racking up the air miles, indeed.
What's going on? We'll get into the company because your story is definitely one of the most exciting of any publicly listed Canadian companies. Yep. So I definitely want to get to that. But
sure.
You know, we always talk with the executives about their personal life a little bit. So what have you been up to for the last year?
Well, I have to say, the last time I spoke to you, there was a lot of balance in my life, and unfortunately, that balance has been crushed. I really have been traveling quite a bit. I've been working significantly on our company. This is, of course, my 100% of my effort goes to Northisle Copper and Gold. I'm not a director or a CEO of any other company. Which is uncommon in the junior space these days.
But you're not coaching baseball anymore, or whatever?
You know what? I've limited it to only one team. Recall that I was kind of multiple hats last year, but this year it's only down to one team. My daughter and my son are finally playing on the same team.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm just over the moon on that.
You had to let everybody know, hey, we got a good PEA, so I'm going to be pulling back all my duties.
Yeah. Well, it's to actually get to that PEA, as people can appreciate, was about a 2-year process. And as we got into it last year, it was evident to me, at least, that this was going to be something that we would be proven to that this was a great decision for the company to do. So I could get into that a little bit more later. But yes, it has been incredibly busy, and I'm grateful. I think the thing that I might have touched on this last time. The big difference between investment banking and what I'm doing right now is every second of my time is purposeful. I know exactly why and what I'm doing every second of the day, which again, like, to have a purposeful life, to know that your time is being very well spent, is, in my view, the essence of life. Time is the most important thing that we all have, and if we're not using it wisely, then it is a bit of a wasted life.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a great perspective for anybody listening to just kind of think about that for a second, and that's outside of the markets. But that's a great point, man. Do you listen to any podcasts at all? Like, I mean, I know right now you're in super productive mode, and you seem like a guy that's always productive anyways, but do you ever just need a little bit of break and you kind of go to a podcast or something like that?
I don't go to podcasts. I go to philosophers. So right now I'm on Marcus Aurelius, and I really, really like his approach to life. It's incredible to see how it just transcends generations. Prior to that, I was really engaged in Taoism.
Okay.
Which I thought was a pretty, it's a very holistic way of looking at life. It's obviously something that is quite simple in nature, but I think it's something, if people get into it, it's something that we could all agree on, right? It's not a religion. It's not sort of prescribed way of living is just incredibly insightful thoughts on life. So yeah, I kind of jump from philosophy to philosophy, or philosophers to philosophers, and there is a very common a common point of thinking, which makes sense because we're all humans, we're all eventually the same thing. So those are the things that really I guess decompress me.
What about fasting? You still doing that?
So because this year was so busy, and I think I had mentioned last time, as when you're a professional athlete, you probably shouldn't be intermittently fasting. Like, it's just not a sustainable thing to do. And I found the same thing. When you're going, full octane, pedal to the metal, you can't be taking breaks in your eating habits. Otherwise, you do get sick. And not that was a cause for my cough right now, but I did get sick a couple times because my body just needed the energy, right? So I think intermittent fasting is fantastic. I think it's good. I think it's healthy. But when you require the energy, when you get up and you're going 110%, that fuel tank runs down pretty quickly, and you just need to continue to provide sustenance for your body.
Okay. Well, let's get into the company now, because if our team can pull up a 2-year chart of for Northisle Copper, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
And when you look at I look at so many charts in the junior markets in Canada, and at 90, I don't know, 95 would be a safe number. 95% of them are like the opposite of what yours would look like.
Yep.
So you're clearly providing value for your shareholders. The chart screams that. But most importantly, you don't even have to speculate on that anymore,
Yep.
because you have this PEA out. So
Right.
let's talk about it.
Sure. So when I reference sort of the performance of the company, I'll always go back to when I started about 5 years ago, right? Because it tells many tales, and as people can imagine, there's never just one trajectory going up for anything, right? Yes, we are over a 10x right now since that period of time, but it had dips and falls and bumps many times along the way, and during those dips, falls, bumps, there were a lot of lessons learned. There was a lot of extreme situations where we had to make very tough decisions. We have extremely supportive shareholders. This is the key thing. You can't do this without supportive shareholders. And we have a core group of 4 guys that own over 40%, and then of course management, myself, own an additional 10%. So it's you can't have these this volatility without supportive shareholders. So I really do thank our shareholders for sticking with us and getting to this point in time, which I think that when I started 5 years ago, this was the point where I think that any sort of meaningful company can launch off at, right? So we're now almost a $200 million market cap company. This is something where you can actually do some really interesting things with a project. You could do some really interesting things from a strategic perspective. You could do some really interesting things in the markets, right? Institutionally, you're actually in that range of interest. And so these are all options that are flooding into us right now because of this PEA. And just if people haven't seen the news, this PEA is one of the highest return, lowest capital intensive copper and gold porphyry projects on the planet. And I think your viewers know my background. This was kind of my job in assessing these types of projects while at CIBC. And when you look at a project of any nature, really, there's really 4 things you look at. You say, okay, is it material? Does it have really good economics as per its net present value? And ours has a $2 billion after-tax net asset value, net present value, using long-term conservative analyst consensus prices. Then you say to yourself, okay, well, there's a lot of $2 billion projects out there, but usually they cost a lot to build, right? The capital intensity is enormous, and that's the issue with big copper porphyry projects.
And why they don't get financed.
And why they don't get financed, or they get just bought up by bigger companies that can actually build them, right?
Right.
So all of the best tier 1 copper projects or copper gold projects are in the tier 1 companies right now, right? There are very few that exist in junior companies because of this very reason. So our capital intensity is second to none. So there's a couple of measures you can use around that. I think the easiest one, and I think the most logical one, is net present value to capex. So how much is this project worth relative to your capex? So ours is 1.7 to 1, right? $2 billion pretty much off of a $1.1 billion Canadian capex. So that is second to none, right? There are very few, if any, projects that have that ratio of our size. And then that goes to this third metrics, which is, okay, well, look, I mean, that might be a very small project you're talking about here, right? Short mine life, etc. Well, our mine life is 29 years life of mine. So this is a generational project.
Yeah, that's pretty lengthy, no?
Which goes through multiple cycles, right? So we're using an analyst consensus of $2,100 gold and $420 copper, right? And so I can guarantee you those prices are not going to be that low over the next 30 years. I can guarantee you that, right? So I think, and then finally, of course, is the return, right? When you look at big porphyry projects, you usually are looking at returns between 10 to 20%. 20% if you're absolutely lucky. So ours goes at 29% after tax internal rate of return. So again, the point of intersection of all four of those things is very, very rare. You very rarely find that in a project, and we have it at Northisle Copper and Gold.
So for you, as the CEO, you don't have to go and be super promotional about exploration, even though you still have that in your back pocket. You just get to go and now sort of take the numbers and say, we're undervalued.
Right.
That must be exciting for you.
Well, it's I'll maybe challenge that. I know that there are CEOs or people that have taken that route that say, hey, this is the project. We are going ahead with this. This is something that we're going to go through the sanctioning phase as quickly as possible, which we are going to do.
Yeah.
But we have just scratched the surface on the exploration side. We have a 35-kilometer porphyry district. We now have a preliminary economic assessment that shows that our phase one, so the reason why this is such a high margin, high return project is we've broken it up in two phases. And effectively phase one pays for phase two. But phase one, the reason why it's so robust, it's about a 70% margin. And it comes from this northern part of the project, which we call creatively the Northern Corridor. And only 2/3 of the projects that we've identified are included in the PEA. And it's because the third one, West Goodspeed, was just discovered last year. And we drilled about 18 holes in West Goodspeed. So we've just funded $10 million in December with two major multi-billion-dollar Canadian and U.S. institutions, a drill program that is going to go after that really high margin area that's informing and really boosting our PEA in the Northern Corridor. So whilst development, and we are absolutely convinced, since the market certainly has supported this conviction, whilst that project right now is absolutely good enough to go press the button, we are not going to take our eye off the ball from an exploration perspective. We're fully funded to go after that 70% margin Northern Corridor area and really make a splash at it. So I could go into a little bit more detail about it later, but it's just as exciting, if not more, because this is the value driver for the PA. This is the area that's the value driver for the PA, and if we can find more of it, it just makes the project much, much, much better.
Well, I think I'm glad you challenged that, because it seems like there's substantial blue sky potential still.
There is. So I think what you're, rightfully so asking is that how how difficult is it for people to actually understand this PEA, right? This is not what we just released a couple of days ago is not just a drill result and say, hey, here's a drill result, use your imagination what this means. This is an economic study that was done by Senko, one of the leading engineering firms in the world, that suggests that this is, again, one of the highest return, lowest capital intensity copper and gold porphyry projects on the planet. And so it takes a bit of time to disseminate this information clearly, especially to retail high net worth. The institutions and the strategics get it.
They have their models.
They have their models, and they see these numbers, and it is eye-popping for them, right? And that's why here at PDAC, we have just been inundated with meetings with institutions and corporates.
And funny enough, that's where you're going right now. I'm driving you
to... We're going to a broker right now, institutional broker right now. So I think that the key here for us initially is to get the word out, retail, high net worth. I think I might have mentioned this to you in the past. The business has changed a bit, right? Like since I was an investment banker, the institutions are used to be, price setters for stocks, and they would go into the market, they would buy, they would sell. There was a lot of liquidity. Brokers would have liability desks that would trade these things. That doesn't happen, at least for companies, sub $500 million anymore, right? It's just, the junior companies are led, they're driven price-wise by retail high net worth individuals that are
self-directed,
and it is exactly right. So this that whole sort of AI self-directed momentum trading that really has taken certainly over the junior space, if there is any liquidity in the junior space.
Yeah, there really isn't.
There isn't, but for a few certain examples like us.
Yeah.
So we are going to spend the next 2 to 3 months heavily marketing this fact, or we believe is fact, that this project is one of the best on the planet. So I think that's step one, right? Step two is to entertain and engage these inbounds coming from institutions, strategics, and understanding how their product or their partnership can assist us in advancing this project as quickly as possible with as little dilution to shareholders as possible, right? So the key here, again, is 5 guys own over 45% of the stock. We've got a handful of institutions that own about 20% of the stock. We've got a loyal group of high net worth and retail shareholders that own the remainder of the stock. And so for us, we need to protect these shareholders through as minimal dilution as possible with the maximum amount of impact, right? And so I understand certainly how to do that as it relates to creating competitive tension for your stock, and that can be done through, again, institutions and through the strategic environment as well. So that's going to be a step that we are going to advance in parallel. That is really, again, predicated on the tremendous results that we've just released a couple of days ago.
So I've done this maybe 4 times on this segment before. So I'm going to admit, I don't own Northisle copper.
Okay.
But I will in about an hour and a half. I'm going to buy some stock.
Okay.
So I've only said that maybe 4 times. I think this segment I've interviewed easily over 60 issuers, and I've bought 4 times. Wonderful. So I'm going to buy some, dude.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
That makes you and me partners.
Yeah, we are partners, and I just think that the numbers speak for themselves. I believe in you. Your background is unreal. You're the right guy for me to go and pitch this to someone, because no one can question your background. I mean, they also can't question the numbers.
Right.
So I'm in. I will be buying some stock. Anything else you want to touch on?
Yeah, this is, in my mind, is a great entry point, right? Because, as I said, it's taking 5 very long years to get to the point where now I feel that we can actually flex our muscles and do what it is we think this project needs, right? You can't do that as a 20, $30 million market cap company, right?
Yeah.
And so to get from there to here is a testament to the team, and we have a wonderful team, and I thank them tremendously for executing flawlessly the strategy here. But this is just the beginning. This is really just the launching pad that actually will make this project, will make this company the company that I always envisioned this company could be. And so I appreciate your support. I think that this is a good time to be supportive, just as for people's edification. I might have not spoken to you since then, but last year I doubled down and I early exercised my options. So recall, I got paid 4 million options when I first started, priced at market, and I did not take a salary. That was my payment.
Yeah.
I worked tirelessly without any compensation other than these 4 million options. Last year, I fully exercised them, paying a massive unrealized capital gains tax bill without selling a single share. So now I am a 7.5 million shareholder of the company. All through paid capital.
Yeah.
And
you put your money where your mouth is.
I put my money where my mouth is.
Yeah.
I have the conviction. I believe that this is the time. This is the time to launch, and I'm willing to pay an unrealized capital gains bill.
Yeah.
To prove it. So I think I'm very happy to hear that you've it takes time to understand and to start to gain trust in people and the story, and it's been about 3 years for us, or 2 to 3 years for us, and that is a very that's a very common time frame. And so as we go through building, and we have been, of course, over the last few years, building these relationships and converting them into exactly what you've just identified right here, which is I'm sold, I want in. That's how you build momentum. That's how you build it. And we are going to be doing it at the institutional level. We'll be doing it at the corporate level to create that tension, to create that need or fear of missing out, for a better word and acronym.
One of the benefits, the obvious benefits to me doing this job is that I get to really get a feel for management, right? So out of the 4 companies, it's either 3 or 4 that I've interviewed a few times. I'm like, I'm buying stock, and I've said it. There's only one of those. 3 out of the 4, I'm in a pretty nice percentage gain in my portfolio,
yes.
And one of them's down. So that's pretty good, actually. When you consider junior markets and the risk, and how many winners you have versus losers. So yeah, I'll be buying some. I believe in copper. I believe in gold. I believe in the numbers, and I believe in you. So let's leave it there, man.
All right, man. Cool.
And
thanks so much.
Absolutely, we're just a couple minutes away from the next broker meeting, and hopefully it's a good one.
Excellent.
All
Thanks
right.
very much.
Follow the Money Investor Group is a 100% Indigenous-owned company and certified with the Canadian Council for Aboriginal Business.